Fred Joyal. Hi, appreciate you being here today.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here.
Who is Fred Joyal and what is his mission?
I am a longtime entrepreneur. I ran a business for almost 30 years that I founded with a partner of mine way back in the 80s. But my mission now is to help people live bolder lives and realize that boldness is a life skill that you can develop. It's not just something you're born with.
I work as a coach and sometimes I see people really gravitate towards this idea of boldness. I've had that idea before. Why am I just not bolder, right? And it's something that you've built a huge framework from, which we'll get into, but I want to start a little bit closer to the beginning, if we will. You're known for being the co-founder, as you mentioned, of 1-800-DENTIST, the largest dentist referral service in the US. And I wonder, what role did boldness play in this venture?
It covered all the bases, really, because it took boldness to just think I could run a business. I had never run one before, and I didn't know anything about dentistry. So all I had was a phone number and my expertise in advertising, however significant that was. I had just been working as a copywriter for a few years in an ad agency. Dentists didn't do much advertising then. Actually, the dental societies were against it. So I had significant headwinds, and we had to invent every aspect of the business. We had to create the scripts for the call center. I had never run a call center, and we had to find the doctors that wanted to participate. So it was one bold move after another.
Yeah. Where did that idea come from? Was it just sort of like I don't know. I'm just curious about that.
You know, sometimes it's the most random thing that happens. A guy I knew that I had worked in a startup with that was a complete failure. One of the things he started to like was 800 numbers when they came out, and he just got the number 800 dentist and had it ringing to his house for 5 years. He just didn't know what to do with it. And then he eventually saw me in advertising. He says, "I think you could turn this into a business." And I was naive enough to think, yeah, maybe I could.
It's still around, and it's interesting. I never thought of this before, but as you started talking, I was thinking, oh my gosh, 800 numbers were like the 80s version of a website, right?
Yeah. I mean, we were like Google and Yelp combined.
Mm-hmm.
We were, because we had way more information than anybody else did. Like, the only advertising at the time was the Yellow Pages, which was you placed an ad once a year. And if it was inaccurate or you closed, it still ran for the rest of the year. So we had people that we had sent to the dentist. That was our recommendations, that he or she was a good practitioner. And we knew what insurances they took and all of this stuff, what the hours were, all these things that now you can get easily, but you couldn't get at all back then.
Your work with boldness, how that occurs to you when you look back now. Did boldness come from this idea of oh, I don't even know if I could run a business? And then you're kind of like, what the heck did I get myself into with running this? And you had to kind of learn everything on the fly. Was it kind of a retrospective thing? You look back, you're like, oh, you know what? There was boldness that really kind of was the threshold energy that got me to the door. I'm curious about that.
Yeah, well, the essence of boldness is that you don't know how it's going to go. People say, well, I would be bolder if I had more confidence. And I say, yeah, that's not it. If you're confident, it doesn't require any boldness.
Yeah.
Boldness is taking action when you don't know how it's going to go, but you're willing to discover how it's going to go and either make it work or learn some hard lesson along the way. And so it's way more on reflection that I realized that my partner, Gary, and I were just making bold moves. And eventually what happens is you get committed on so many things. I mean, when you start a business, you sign personally on the lease, you sign personally on the advertising commitment. The list just, any equipment you buy, it just goes on and on. So if the business fails, you have to go bankrupt.
Yeah.
It's not just, you can't just close the business. And so you get to the point, and we had borrowed $30,000 from our family. And so you pretty much got to figure out how to make it work. So it's the old burning the boats in the harbor kind of approach. Not that we were approaching it that way, but that's what happens. You're in so deep, you got to make it work.
So what point did you start sort of distilling this idea of boldness from this? That's kind of the centerpiece of your work now.
It happened years later when I was speaking to a group of high school students. And was presenting at this point life lessons that I had picked up along the way. And one of the things I had said is that boldness is a superpower. And the sooner you learn it, the more satisfying your life will be. And the more you'll be chasing your dreams rather than living a life by somebody else's design. And so the students came up to me after and said, "That's great. How do we do it? Like,
Yeah.
how could we possibly become bolder?" And I realized I had to figure out how I did it, because I am a recovering introvert myself, but it just frustrated me and made me angry. And I realized I had to find a way out. And I figured out a way that people can do it much more quickly than I did. I mean, I did it over a couple of decades, really. And I've become very passionate about helping people, one, realize it's a learnable skill, and two, how fast you can learn it, how fast you can start to get those results and expand your comfort zone.
You're more recently known for the 2021 book, SuperBold, From Underconfident to Charismatic in 90 Days. The first thing I think of when I hear that is like, wow, 90 days, that's pretty quick. That's a quarter of a year. And you said just now you aren't naturally bold. So what inspired the change? Walk us through that.
What happens is you start to stack regrets, and some of them become really painful. And you say, can't continue. I have to find a way out of this. Or that's all I'm going to do is stack regrets. And that's what some people do. They just live with their regrets, and they're just afraid to try anything. I say you can become significantly bolder in 90 days if you do the exercises in the book, and you can. But it would be pretty sad if I didn't have a fairly bold promise to the book. It's like a really cautious, promise that would hardly be bold enough. It would hardly be super bold. That's for sure.
I didn't realize the irony of what I was saying there. What was bold to me was the 90-day period. I think there's something about the idea of, listen, it's going to take a bold response to this in order to really get there. But like you said, a lot of people can do it faster than you can. You work with a wide range of clients now, from sales teams, companies, leadership groups. And I've come to understand you're helping them overcome fear, improve communication, and just kind of build their confidence, even though the boldness comes first, as you said. What is it like for these groups to work with you?
I think that generally that the first thing that happens is they get this shift in mindset. They start to see boldness in a different way, because they're linking it to I'm not good at this, or I'm not, I'm not this kind of person, or I'm not good at prospecting, or I'm great at pitching, but I can't close like I want to, or I can't close the big orders, and that happens to a lot of salespeople is there's like a dollar threshold where I call it the nosebleed level, where they can't pitch anymore. Like, they can't ask for the money. And because it's too far into their discomfort zone. And so when they realize that, oh, I can just keep expanding my comfort zone by being uncomfortable, as long as I control the intensity of it. In other words, build it, the analogy I use is you build boldness just like you would build muscles. You got to strain yourself. You got to do something difficult. You got to be uncomfortable so that you get stronger. And the interesting thing about the analogy is, when we exercise, when you're doing reps, curls, bench press, something like that, the most important rep is the one after the one you can do. The growth happens in the last 2 or 3 reps, and then it's the last 2 or 3 reps when you can't do the next one. Deliberately aim for failure when we're exercising. And the thing is, so we're aiming for failure because there's no negative consequences. There's only upside. You fail at the 14th rep, you go like, now we're talking. But we flip failure around in the rest of life. It's like, oh, I tried that pitch and it failed. I went for that close and it failed. I was like, I got to scale it back. I got to relearn something, or I got to have more bonuses I give, things like that. Instead of just saying, I've got to get better by not being good at something, which means you're going to fail at it. If you want to start to meet people on a regular basis, you're going to bungle it the first few times you walk up to a stranger, even if you've prepared something in your head. But eventually, you can meet anybody. I mean, one of the things I'm going to start offering on my app is a t-shirt that says belong everywhere, because that's what I want people to think.
Yeah.
I want them to have that mindset. It's like, there's no reason. The only reason you don't belong somewhere is you've told yourself you don't. Wait till somebody else tells you, and then see if that's really true. And bold people do this all the time because they find out nobody stops them 90% of the time. So they go anywhere they want. They meet anyone they want. And if they're going somewhere where they say, wow, odds are somebody's going to kick me out, and they get kicked out, they went, well, that's what I was expecting. But what happens is most of the time they don't get kicked out. They don't get rejected. They don't get turned down. It's almost like they're aiming for a no or to get kicked out, just because they know a lot of times it doesn't happen. But either way, they're better off. I mean, the transformational moment, because people say, well, what's super bold? And I said, it's simply this. It's defined this way. When trying and failing feels better than not trying at all. That's a shift, because not trying, you get a regret. Trying and failing, you at least took a swing. So you don't, the regret is nominal. The regret is a little bit the sting of like, I didn't get what I wanted, or I got rejected or whatever, but you decide not to take it on because you say like, oh, this is just a step up. This is just I'm closer to my dream because I took another failure step up.
Fred, I can't help but notice the books on your bookshelves, and we have some commonalities there, like The Art of Impossible by Stephen Kotler. I love that book. But one of the things that I sort of hear you saying is that we hear about getting out of your comfort zone. This is sort of another way to say that. It's sort of like being bold is like, it's admirable. I'm stepping out. I'm not comfortable. I'm becoming sort of comfortable with failure. So it's kind of like, I'm not, it's like the reference is the excitement of sort of moving into something new without it being your discomfort zone. I don't know.
Yeah, we have created a goal of being comfortable all the time.
Yeah.
What happens is you atrophy from that. You're basically playing it safe all the time. You're never stretching yourself. All the interesting stuff's when you move out of your comfort. The comfort zone that you're looking for is a place to go refuel. It's a gas station. It's not a home. You want to, because your life is short. You want to be out there taking chances and taking risks and having discoveries and bringing your full self to the world and designing your life, not letting somebody else tell you what you're capable of, who you should be. And when you ask people on their deathbed, what do they regret? They don't regret the things they failed at. They regret the things they didn't try, the things they didn't do, the things they didn't say. And now the clock's run out.
None of us want to end up there. I think I'm finding myself getting really excited talking about this because you said that you're not naturally a bold person. And some of my earliest memories are like my grandmother telling me, you're a show off. As soon as your brother was born, I was the singer of a band. And then my family would say, oh, we've got to do it Ryan's way. Otherwise, and so I always got this message to be less bold, right? And so I'm sort of seeing the impact of that right now. I can look around and be like, what if I was more bold with this? I'm feeling a lot of excitement with that. I like how you went to define boldness. We talked around our global understanding of what boldness is. You define it as confidence plus a willingness to ask plus social skills plus emotional resilience. One of the other things you talk about in there is playing small. So is not being bold the same thing as playing it small?
It is. It's playing it safe. It's like, I don't want to move out of my comfort zone anymore. I don't want to fail at anything. I don't want to be rejected over anything. I don't want to be told that I don't belong, that I'm not worthy. And, we drag this I'm not worthy story around with us everywhere. And it took me a long time to shed it. And if I catch myself saying it, I just say, is that true? Why would that be true? Because I've had the opportunity in my life to meet people literally 1,000 times more successful than I am. And they're just people. And they get a little imposter syndrome going on too. And they have their own insecurities, and they made colossal mistakes. I mean, that was the beauty of my experience running 1-800-Dentist is my partner and we made big mistakes and survived them. And, people complain, they say, I just lost $10,000 on this thing that we tried. And I went, wait till you lose $500,000 on something,
Yeah.
then you'll laugh. You'll pray for the $10,000 mistake.
Right. Yeah. I wonder how much the book is sort of a rebellion against your earlier self.
The person you're most likely to help is the person you once were.
Yeah.
And that's who I was. I mean, I missed dates. I missed fun and adventure and promotions and deals, opportunities until I couldn't take it anymore. There were just moments that just stung too much. And I said, well, I have to find a way out of it. I just have to emulate bold people, even though I don't understand why they're that way. Why don't they process rejection like I do? Why are they not embarrassed? But they're not. They decide to choose not to be embarrassed. And when you realize embarrassment's a choice, everything changes. You just say, I don't have to feel rejection. I don't have to feel unworthy. I don't have to feel embarrassed. I can choose not to.
Yeah. I think really that's sort of like when you hear people like Tony Robbins say, it all comes down to choice, right? We are making that choice. And if the automatic choice is, I'm going to be embarrassed here, instead of, no, I was being bold and this is just sort of the cost of that, that's a different choice.
Yeah. It feels way different once you start doing it. And the thing is, just to get into the neuroscience of it, is once you start doing these things, you build new neural pathways. Something literally is happening in your brain where you're changing your default mode to something else, because the hesitation choice, the retreat, the fear, those responses atrophy. Those programmed responses atrophy because you've gotten too much positive feedback from bold action, even if it didn't go right. Because it's like, yeah, but I can live with it not going right because I asked, I offered, I tried, I said yes. Say yes and see how you can make it go. And you'll be shocked at how often it goes better than you thought. Or that bold people are so used to discovering something unexpected that they expect the unexpected at this point.
Yeah, right.
Which is a great thing. It's just like, it didn't go the way I wanted, but it went better somehow.
Yeah. You ever have a time where you got yourself in a situation and thought, oh man, this is too bold?
I'm trying to think if I have said it and then it went really well. Yeah. Like, why did I think I could do this? There was one time I wasn't, dressed very casually, and I saw this meeting. I was in this hotel at this convention, and it was a meeting of all of these CEOs of all of these companies, and they're all in suits and ties and something like that. And I thought, should I go in? I probably shouldn't go in. I'm like very casual here, and I'm not on the list or anything, because there's a big sign that says, this room the restaurant is closed for a private event, which is another way of saying you're not invited.
You don't belong.
Yeah. And so I went in and just started wandering around, and at one point a hostess comes up to me. And I went, oh, here we go. Here comes the boot. I'm going to get kicked out, which I was okay with. And she says, can I make you a badge? And I said, actually, I'm not on the invitee list here. And she goes, okay, well, fine. Well, I'll make you a badge anyway, but you can only stay for the cocktail party because the dinner is all reserved seating. I went, well, I said, no, That's fine. It's like the cocktail party is a really good time to be there, right? That's the schmooze portion of the program.
Wow.
So I stayed. Now I've got a badge, and I'm walking around just talking to all of these guys, some of them that I really wanted to meet. And then towards the dinner time, she comes up to me and says, a few people didn't show up, so you're welcome to stay for dinner.
Wow. So that definitely went a lot better than you thought.
Yeah. So free meal and got to sit down at a table with some really incredibly successful people. And I had almost talked myself out of it. I was like, let me go see what happens. And it was definitely, I was stretching way beyond my comfort zone because I was, kicking beyond my yardage, so to speak.
There's another interplay that's between like the cultural expectation of being bold, because I think, at least I've had the experience, I don't want to speak for anybody else, where you've had somebody like behind you in line all of a sudden like claim some sort of special right to be in the front of the line, and then they got it and you're like, really? Yeah, how did that happen? But through this, like the way of looking at it this way, you've sort of identified this sort of cultural norm of not being bold. And there's certain times where it's extremely beneficial to just sort of, it's not necessary, number one, to follow the norm in these cases, and it could be really beneficial.
And sometimes these rules are just made up that don't relate to anything. They're like scarecrows, just designed to keep some people out. And so if you ask, like, why is that there? And who's it protecting? And am I hurting anybody? Because I'm not telling anybody to go, intrude on people or be rude or aggressive or anything like that. No, I want you to bring your full self to the world and chase your dreams. And if they're criminal dreams, that's your problem. Like you do this, you're going to be having some bold experiences probably in some sort of a penitentiary. But my book is filled with exercises that basically are doing something that makes you uncomfortable, but there's no negative consequences. And that's what I want you to discover. You're doing bold things when the stakes are low, so that your reflex is to be bold when it matters. That you step up, you speak up, you say yes, because there will be times in your life where it will really matter. Because if you don't say yes, if you don't stand up for something, speak up, if you don't act, it will gnaw at you the rest of your life that you didn't. And so that's what I want. That's why I'm so passionate about this, because I see this happen to people. They're at their parents, their father's funeral, and they don't get up and say anything because they go, I'm not a public speaker. It's like, I want to grab them by the shirt collar and say, this isn't a speaking event. This is your last chance to say how you feel about this man who raised you. And might cry. Oh, would that be so terrible? I might get tongue tied. I might forget what I'm going to say. Yeah. So what? What's not going to bother you having done that? What's going to bother you? Because that window closes. And that's the other thing I tell people is windows of opportunity don't stay open until you make up your mind. They close. Sometimes it's a yes or a no. It's a right now or not at all. You don't have carpe diem. You can't seize the whole day. You don't have the whole day to seize it. You got to seize the moment. And that's why I want people to, do bold things when it doesn't matter, so that you seize the moment when it does.
What was a moment that you had the opportunity to be bold and it saved you from a dear regret?
I mean, it has been, so many of those, but I use the example because I was not allowed to eulogize my father. The church wouldn't allow anybody to get up and speak. But then when a man who was like a second father to me passed away, I was not only able to get up and speak for everyone, because two of his kids also wouldn't get up and speak, and it pained me. I actually read the eulogies they had written for him, because they weren't comfortable getting up and doing it. But I had actually ahead of time written his eulogy while he was in a nursing home and gave it to him so that he could hear what I was going to say ahead of time. And his daughter told me that he read it every day. And so that was the difference. That was the real lesson was, not only do I want to speak up when they pass, I want to be bold enough to say, here, this is what I would say about you. Because we avoid these conversations because there's so much emotional intensity to them. And then they go away. The window up, the person goes away. but many times it's the opportunity that goes away in life too. And all you get to do is look back and say, I should have. And the more that you start sentences with those 3 words when you're in your last years or last month or last hours, the more regrets you're going to have. I want to say that no times. I don't want to say I should have. I want to say, I'm sure glad I tried this, said that. Wow, that didn't go right, but I don't care, man. I went all in and didn't come out like I wanted it to at all, but I don't regret it.
That's a powerful story. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. I can think of it resonates with a personal experience that I had where I wasn't bold like I wish I would have. So that definitely helps put things in perspective for me.
We don't have enough time for me to list all the times I wasn't bold, growing up, and how many dates I missed. I had one woman actually let me know years later she was interested in marrying me. And I never spoke up. I was like so nervous. I don't want to wreck this friendship. I had plenty of reasons not to speak up. None of them were true. None of them were accurate. They were just, I was stopping me. And that's the reality. Nobody stops us more than we do.
Yeah, that's true. You make such an interesting distinction in the book, and we touched on a little bit, between being bold and being confident. Help me peel those apart, because they're still sort of stuck together in my world a little bit.
Yeah. So first of all, confidence is how you feel. And it means this is going to go okay. This is going to go well. This is going to go great even. And we all have situational confidence. Some people are great in a crowd of people. They can meet everybody they want. One-on-one, they've got nothing. And other people are the reverse. They're only comfortable one-on-one. As soon as there's 3 people, they go silent. And, there's stand-up comedians that can go on stage and do 45 minutes, but they can't have a normal conversation with a stranger. We all have this situational stuff. Like we may be very good at one thing. We may be a really good dancer, but we'll never sing karaoke because it might not come out perfectly. The better you are at other things where you are confident, the more you veer away from those things where you're not confident. Boldness is saying, Boldness is 100% about action. It's not about how you feel. It's about taking action when you are not confident. And what happens is the more bold action you take, the more confident you become. You build confidence by doing bold things that you weren't good at. Whatever you got good at, you sucked at some point. Whether it was the walking and talking or, learning a foreign language or learning a musical instrument, you sucked at it. Occasionally, if you're a prodigy, good for you. And you started right off playing scales on a piano with no problem. But this is how you get better, is by not being good at all. And so there's areas where you've built your confidence, but you're playing it safe if you stay there. Boldness is saying, I'm not comfortable how this is going to go. I'm uncomfortable even thinking about this, but I'm going to do it anyway. That's what requires boldness. It's like, another way of looking at it is everyday bravery, like summoning the bravery to just say, look, we need to have this conversation. What you said last month to me really bothered me, and I really have to air this out with you. Having a difficult conversation takes boldness, takes some everyday bravery. It's not about massive courage going out and fighting a war and saving lives and stuff like that. Most of us, our lives are about being bold enough to say to your spouse, I don't know where this relationship is going to go. I want to work on it, but I'm lost. Or to let your child do that, stumble and fall and try something and cry, and not just protect them all the time. It doesn't take boldness to be a helicopter parent. It takes boldness not to be.
Yeah.
It takes courage. You have to bite the bullet and let them learn, let them fail, let them struggle, they're only going to become resilient if you let them bumble through life and find their way. If you're going to mow the lawn all the way in front of them. This is what they say. The worse than the helicopter parent is the lawnmower parent. They're
Yeah.
clearing the path for the way every inch of the way, to the point where their kid can't brush their teeth without a service dog with them. It's like they've impaired their child this way because they don't want them to be uncomfortable. You gotta be bold enough to let your kid be uncomfortable, but you got to be doing it too. You're setting the example. Mommy doesn't know how this is going to go, but sweetie, she's going to try it anyway. She's going to join the town council, and they may not like what she has to say, but mommy feels like she wants to do it.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. I think that resonates a lot with me. I've got 2 twin boys that are 2.5. And, I read somewhere, and I took this to heart for whatever reason, is the best thing you can do in a lot of cases is just help them be uncomfortable. Just help them when they are uncomfortable. Don't take it away. So it hurts. So what are we doing now? What is like the fundamental, if you had to like put it in one emotion, one human emotion, what is it that SuperBold helps people sort of work around, work through, conquer?
What drives this hesitation is just that underconfidence in that moment. There's like, I want it to go right. See, that the more you want it, the more you hesitate, because the more you fear it's not going to go right. But that guarantees that if you don't do it, it's like a lottery ticket. The only way you guarantee you're not going to win is to not buy one. And it's the same thing as like, I really want this. I really want to get into this college. I really want this job. I really want this promotion. I really want this sale. The more you want it, the more that erodes what confidence you might have had, so that it feels riskier. But that's what it means. You have to develop that ability to say, yeah, look at me. I'm uncomfortable at this. I'm fearing that this isn't going to go right, which means I really want it. So I have got to summon this everyday bravery and embrace the discomfort enough to try. It's all about, you just got to be willing to try and say, I'm doing it. And a lot of times put yourself in a situation where you've got no choice but to speak or to try or to act. It's like bungee jumping. You don't have to jump. You just have to lean forward.
Yeah.
At a certain point, gravity takes over.
Yeah.
And that's, so what can you do to let gravity take over? Maybe it's just dial a phone. Maybe it's just turn to that person and say, hi, I'm Ryan. I'd really like to meet you. And inside you're going, please don't stiff arm me and send me away. And just say, I'm busy, or just turn away and not look at me. But that can happen. When it does, you eventually say, I don't have to take that on. I don't know what headspace they were in. This is, this is the other thing. The process of becoming bolder is one of the things is to shed other people's opinions, to take them out of your life. I have approximately 5 people whose opinions really, really matter almost categorically. The rest of them, I might want their opinion because they're an expert in something like that. But other people's judgments about me, I could care less. I don't have time for them. That's their issue. Most of the time, they're wrong. They don't know me, even if they're right. Do you need everyone to love you? That's a pretty dang tall order.
Yeah. I think one of the sort of really insightful things about your definition was that you included emotional resilience. And I think, so there could be somebody listening to this who's thinking, listen, I was bold, man. And be careful because I lost it all. How do you help those folks?
The reality is, if you lost it all, you're still alive. So you technically didn't lose it all. You're still breathing. I mean, one of the blessings of running a business as long as I did is you bounce off the bottom sometimes. You get painted into such a corner where it is a near extinction event. And sometimes you find a way out of it. And sometimes you don't. And sometimes my business didn't end gloriously with a giant exit strategy. It diminished very steadily and went as badly as it probably could have gone towards the end. But I had 30 years of a great business, tremendous learning experiences, created a great culture. And learned a lot of lessons that I can help other people with so that that it doesn't, what happened to me in various situations doesn't have to happen to them. They can make their own mistakes. They don't have to make mine. They don't have to hit the pothole at the same speed I hit it. And they can maybe even go around it. And so I just say, like, as long as you're breathing, God has said the clock's still running, get up off the floor. And sometimes that's what it takes. It's like, I always when stuff goes badly or like I didn't expect it, I give myself some time to grieve, but not a lot. I don't carry it with me forever. It's not a permanent part of me. I am having a temporary grieving period for that thing. And the shorter, the better. But I allow myself that. And I say, all right, now what am I going to do? And sometimes it's just, start over. Most people I know have started over 2 or 3 times, not just in business, not just in their careers, but in their personal life. I know people who are on their second marriage and they say, like, this is the marriage I've been waiting for. Both me and my ex, we were so wrong for each other and so sure we weren't when we started. But when now we're good friends because we can look back and say, boy, we were just deluded to think that was going to work. And I appreciate the time together, and I appreciate not being with you anymore, because I would have never found Nancy or Jack or whoever it is to be with. I mean, it only looks bad in the moment.
Yeah.
Is the reality.
I want to talk about some of the methodology you have in SuperBold, if that's all right with you. You talk about the pride method. Could you walk us through what the pride method is?
Yeah. So it's how you do boldness exercises, and it eventually becomes how you approach situations that require your boldness. So PRIDE is an acronym that stands for preparation, relaxing, insights, dosage, and everyday action. So I'll quickly summarize them with an example. Let's say you're in line at Starbucks and you see this really interesting person that you'd like to talk to. Prepare what you're going to say. Don't just walk up and hope you come up with something. Prepare something. A compliment is always the best way to go. You don't have to be brilliant. You don't have to be clever. You don't have to be funny. That puts a lot of pressure on the other person. So if you just are nice and courteous and just say, hey, I'm Ryan, those glasses look really great on you. And actually you seem like somebody I'd really like to meet. And so you've said that and here's the other, just a sidebar, which is so important about preparation, is it creates room for spontaneity because you got something. So you may walk up and you're about to compliment the glasses, and then suddenly you notice they're wearing a ring just like your mother wore. And you just switch right in the moment because you got one bullet in the gun already. And now you can just shift because you're not like, I don't know what to say. So you don't get tongue tied. So that preparation is the first step. The next step is relaxing, is realizing that you have the ability to relax your body simply by taking deep breaths and adjusting your physiology. When we are tense, we tense up. We also stop breathing.
Yeah.
Which is not helpful. I am sure on the African plain when we were hunting, not breathing was important because we were in actual danger and you didn't want to be going because something was going to eat you. That's a deep reflex, but it is not helpful to deprive yourself of oxygen. So before I go on stage, if I got a big audience and they rushed me on, because they told me at the last minute, oh, you got to go on 10 minutes early. I'm backstage and I'm taking 3 deep breaths because I'm just going to settle myself. I just did this with a woman on stage. I brought her on stage. I actually said, who's terrified of public speaking? And a bunch of people were dumb enough to raise their hand. And I picked one. I said, would you be willing to come up here? And she's like, and I said, how about if the whole room encouraged you? And they all cheered her on. So she comes up. I get her to do breathing exercise for less than a minute. And then I say, all right, and here's what I want you to do. I want to pretend you're your best friend speaking at your funeral and what she would say about you. And she just does it. And we videoed it. You could see the physical change in her when she did the breathing. And then she just talked. And I'm like, this is somebody, she was in literally 1,200 people in the audience. That's like madness for somebody who's afraid of public speaking. But we have this ability to, and once you realize you can relax yourself, you get more relaxed. You go like, I'm in control. That's fabulous. Because if you go like, if somebody says, why are you so nervous? That just makes you more nervous. It doesn't help you at all.
Yeah.
So that relaxing is the next phase. And it's as simple as breathing and sometimes shaking your body a little bit. Insights are a couple of things I already talked about. Stop worrying about what other people are thinking about you. They're not thinking about you anywhere near as much as you think they are. And most of the time, the other insight is nobody stops you more than you do. So stop stopping yourself. So those are some key insights right there. Then dosage we talked about as well, which is control the intensity of that experience of being uncomfortable. Don't put yourself, if you want to do public speaking, don't start with an audience of 1,000 people.
Yeah.
Go to Toastmasters, the most supportive environment possible for public speaking. You're going to get nothing but encouragement, so you start to develop that confidence, and then you're bold. You say, I'm going to try something a little different. I'm going to try to tell a joke, even though I'm not really good at telling jokes. And then you try, it doesn't go well. And you go like, oh, what did you think of that joke? Well, this is how you tell that joke. And you get help. It takes boldness to ask for help. That's what we hate to do. That admits we're not perfect, which is the absurdity of human beings, is we don't want people to know we're not perfect.
Yeah.
And we don't expect anybody else to be perfect.
Yeah.
Most of the people I love in my life, I love them as much for their flaws and quirks as I do for their talent and value they bring to my life. But but you want to control the intensity of that experience. If you are no good at talking to people, just smile at people every day. And it goes back to the E, everyday action. Do bold things. Do something that makes you uncomfortable every day when the stakes are low or the stakes are non-existent. Smile at 5 people a day. And after a while, you stop worrying whether they smile back or not.
Yeah.
Because you start to say, they could be having a really bad day. They could have really bad teeth, They never smile at anybody, whatever it is. They're afraid. They're terrified of strangers. Their mom said, don't never get in a white van with anybody. And they accidentally did.
Yeah.
Just do those things at your level. Everybody starts building their boldness from wherever they are. And you just control the intensity in your discomfort. But do things when it doesn't. Karaoke is like a great example because half the people can't sing who do it. Yeah. And they're the ones having the most fun, aren't they? They're up there wailing away and they got moves and everything, and they are off key, note by note by note. But they're having a great time, and you're sitting there going like, oh, I'm not perfect. I can't go up and sing, Stairway to Heaven by myself. And you're like, so they stop themselves from having fun and from being uncomfortable till they get comfortable. Because once people do it, I've watched people start to do it. Now they're like karaoke addicted. It's like, what do we do? Where are we going to karaoke tonight? I mean, is there another option? Can we go to a movie? Like, well, and then karaoke right after that. But that's what happens is all you discover. It's like, oh, wow. The thing I was so fearful of is where the most fun is. And then, so that's dosage. And the everyday action is just do something every day and do it early and get the win and aim for failure. One of the exercises I have people do, because the exercises in the book go up levels until they're pretty crazy, but you work your way up. But one of them is if you see a sign that says employees only, go in. Nothing will happen. 99% of the time, nobody will say anything. It's only the sign itself that's keeping you out. But listen to the voice in your head going, oh, I can't go in here. I shouldn't go in here. Somebody's going to say they're going to throw me out. It's like, yes, they're going to throw you out. It says employees only. You're aiming to get thrown out. So when you aim for that and it doesn't happen, you go like, well, why the heck didn't that happen? I was sure I was going to get thrown out and nobody's even looking at me. I mean, I've done it and I do all my boldness. I do bold stuff all the time. I talk to anybody in an elevator and wherever I can. I just talk to complete strangers where you're not supposed to all the time. But I've gone in and they've said, excuse me, this is for employees only. And I say, well, I am an employee, just not here. And they look at me like I'm an idiot because I'm being an idiot. right? But
Yeah.
it's like, there's no
Yeah.
consequences to
Right.
it. I'm trying to get thrown out, and they didn't even throw me out. They just
No.
sort of let me know I wasn't supposed to be in that
Yeah.
room.
Maybe you're referencing this, but I wonder what the utility of the idea of the boldness spectrum is in your framework.
I think you have to, it goes back to what I'm saying. When you start where you are, don't get trapped in comparing yourself to other people. Don't say, well, this person's so bold. Fred is like crazy bold. He'll walk into any room. He'll start talking to everybody. You know, they'll all be in the corner laughing with him 5 minutes after he entered the room. I said, yeah, don't compare yourself to me. Compare yourself to you.
Yeah.
Start there. Say, what, I'm going to a party. I've been to, in my younger days, I've been to a party and literally met no one.
Yeah.
That's how shy
I have
my
too.
behavior was at the
Yeah.
time. And again, that's a distinction. I had shy behavior in certain situations. I refused to define myself as shy, but that's what a lot of people, that's what your parents will do. Oh, Eddie's the shy one. Shanique was bold. She's crazy bold, but her brother, he's the shy one. So you got to live by their definition of you. It's not helpful. So you want to be doing these things that just expand you from where you are. So look at where you are. I've talked to more bold people who said, I thought it was pretty bold, but now I realize I got way more runway.
Yeah.
It's because a lot of times they develop the boldness they got reinforced for being bold, but they don't have a systematic approach. So sometimes when it really, really matters, that's when they stop themselves because they don't have the training to go like, I'm stopping myself because I really, really want this.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when they catch themselves, they go like, oh, this means I have to do it. Fred is going to be on me if I don't do it. He's going to ask me where I've stopped myself and I'm going to have to confess. So that's where they change themselves, where they step up, because now they have a systematic way. They say, wow, I got to relax myself. I'm normally, I'm doing bold stuff. I barely break a sweat, but this has got me panting.
Yeah.
I got to do some breathing. I got to prepare myself, and I got to remind myself that everybody's a human being with insecurities, and everybody's in their own headspace right now. It's not always my issue. And then go.
Fred, maybe this is a question that maybe, I don't know, maybe there isn't an answer to, but what's the boldest thing you've ever done that your friends or family won't let you live down?
Well, it even goes back to starting 800 Dentist. Everybody told me it wasn't going to work. My mom was terrified for me. My brother was. My boss at the ad agency when I was quitting, and he said, what are you going to do? And I told him, and he said, that'll never work. And this is a general manager of a, big 5 ad agency in Los Angeles. And I'm sure once he started to see the TV commercials everywhere for 5 years straight, he went, this might be working.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, that was at that point that, but I couldn't live with not trying. Well, and here's a more fun example is I was on Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader? I was a guest on the show, and what happens on the show, because it's not on the air anymore, is you answer all of these questions with the kids' help, this fifth graders' help. And the more money you get for the more questions you get right, you can bet on one big question and get 10 times your money, but the kids can't help you anymore. And I was backstage for the show, and everybody that worked on the show said, don't go for the last question. You lose all your money. They don't want you to win. They don't want to give you that money. And so I had $25,000. Jeff Foxworthy, the host, says, what do you want to do, Fred? And I said, let's go for the last question. And they read it to me, and I didn't even understand the question.
Do you remember what it was?
Yes. So I remember. Yes. What layer of the earth lies below the lithosphere?
At some point, I feel like I would have known that.
All the kids knew it on the show, because after I answer, before they tell me if I'm right or wrong, Foxworthy says to the kids, what do you think of Fred's answer? And they go like, oh, no. And I went, okay, so I am wrong. I mean, I just babbled. But what I did, see, this is the thing. Everybody told me not to go for it because I was going to lose all the money, but I couldn't live with not going for it. I could live with not getting it right. And I didn't get it right. But that 30 minutes was some of the most fun I've ever had being on that show. And they let me wear a polo shirt that had 1-800-DENTIST on the front of it. And because I went for the last question, they repeated that episode endlessly because I made good television for them. So we estimated I got $1 million of free publicity from that show.
Oh, that's incredible.
Because I went for it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But nobody was saying go for it. Except the whole audience. There is a moment on the show where Jeff says, "What are you going to do, Fred?" And the audience starts cheering, "Fred, Fred, Fred, Fred."
Yeah.
Because it's not their money.
Yeah.
They don't care. But that was probably from a risk and fun standpoint. It was pretty much a complete loss and then an amazing win. And the unexpected, as we talked about, it's like sometimes you don't get what you aim for at all. Yeah. And you get something unexpected that's twice as good.
So if someone could only be bold in one area of their life, should it be meeting people, asking for opportunities, or requesting upgrades at hotels?
I think it would be meeting people, because I think that your ability to meet anybody you want is one of the most impactful things on your personal life and your career. You know, if you see this mentor that you've always wanted to talk to and you can walk up and have a normal conversation with them and build a connection, that is huge. If you can get in front of a room full of people and communicate your ideas effectively,
yeah,
that is huge. If you can meet that person that could be the love of your life or one of your best friends, that's huge. A change in your life. Transformational. All of these things could create transformations in your life, could change the direction completely in an upward vector. Just because you spoke up, you step up, you develop this ability to meet anybody you want and believe you are worthy and that you belong wherever you are. I have had the most incredible conversations with the most amazing people. I have played charades with Robin Williams. Okay. If you want a humble brag, there's almost no humility in that brag.
Yeah.
But that's what I've gotten to do this stuff because I said yes.
Yeah.
Instead of like, I'm not going to play with him. He's going to beat me. It's like, it's going to be embarrassing. He's going to think I'm an idiot. But instead, you know, this is, I want you to seize the moments. I want people to know that life is short and it's too short to let somebody else decide what you're capable of or to blame other people for your unhappiness. They don't care. Your happiness and fulfillment is your responsibility. And that's what you're going to get. Boldness will lead to fulfillment and satisfaction in your life.
Did I see that you have the SuperBold podcast?
Yes.
So what do you feature on that show?
I bring people on and I probe the bold moves that didn't go well at all and what they learned from them and the times that they were bold that were absolutely pivotal in their life. Because and some of it was they just had to. They had to step up. And they did, and it made all the difference in their life. And sometimes, I want people to understand this isn't about becoming a world beater. And you know, it may be that that's who you become, but it takes boldness, as we talked about. If you want to be the best dad you could possibly be, that takes boldness because that will not be easy. That will maybe be the hardest thing you ever do. If you want to be the best partner in business or in life, or if you want to be the best employee you could possibly be, that says I'm willing to get better, which means I know I'm not, which means I'm asking for help. Tell me where I'm off course, where I'm off base. If you're in a marriage and you just say, sweetie, I know I don't communicate well. How can I fix it? How can we fix it together? I want to get better. So sometimes boldness is just a very personal thing. You want to be bold enough to say, look, I know I've got to work this job just to feed my family, but I want to write a novel. Now, if you take a half an hour a day and write a novel, in 2 years, you'll have a novel. And you can find a half an hour. Just put the phone down.
Yeah. Just put the
You'll
phone down.
find it. And you know what? It
Great
may
bold of you.
never get published. The example, that incredible book series, Chicken Soup for the Soul,
Yeah.
144 rejections
Yeah.
for that book. Imagine if he stopped at 144 instead of going to 145 and getting a publisher.
Yeah.
That 600 million copies sold of that series, because you don't know what it's going to take.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
not
so
the
true.
144 is not the number. You got to try at least 145 times. No, you got to try until the no is absolute, until there is certainty that this is wrong. And you may start a business that the marketplace just doesn't care. But did you stop because you were tired or scared, or just didn't want to experience any more rejection? Or did the marketplace really say, we're not interested?
Yeah.
Because if you push as hard as you can, and I recently worked in a business, and it was a great product, really well designed, worked really well. My sales team sold it really well, and people would buy it and just not use it. And we could see, the digital world is like this. We could see the utilization was absurdly bad. And I just said, we can't, everything we did to try to get them to use it made no difference. And I said, they're really just never going to use this. It's not something they care enough about to do something, to do this, to make this work. But we took a big swing at it, and it wasn't that there was anything wrong with the product. It was just sometimes it's just timing. I mean, I've had great ideas that were too early and too late.
Well, Fred, you've been extremely gracious with your time, and your stories are just magical. And I want to just ask you, as we sort of wrap here, what should we have talked about? What should have I asked you about that we didn't get a chance to talk about?
I think it's just, I would like people who are listening to just pick one thing. What's one thing that scares you? Either just, and a lot of times the best things are just a physical thing that scares you. Maybe it's bungee jumping or skydiving or something like that, or salsa dancing, and just go do it, and put a wig on when you go do it, so that you feel like there's a bizarre effect when you do that. Because you feel like, oh, I'm a different person. So it's not me that people think is being an idiot or is incompetent. It's this, the curly afro, just pick one thing and do it. Look at it from a different perspective than you ever did before. Examine the flavor of that. And it really wasn't as bad as you thought. And maybe something unexpectedly good happened.
Fred, where can people connect with you online or on social media?
So the easiest way is fredjoyal.com. My book is SuperBold, is on Amazon, and it's in Kindle and hardcover and Audible, and it's me reading it. So people love that. But they can also, if you go to fredjoyal.com/app, APP, you can download my app, and you can actually get the book, the audiobook, and listen to it in the app for free. The whole book. It's available in the app for free. So fredjoyal.com, that's JOYAL, .com/APP. If you go there, free book.
That sounds like a good deal to me. Well, I think I really appreciate your sharing your story with us and sharing this idea. And I think for anybody listening, I think boldness, and I'm speaking for myself too, is going to play a more important role for sure. So thank you so much for your time today.
Brian, thanks for having me on. This has been a blast.
Yeah.